Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Collecting Vintage Unopened podcast. My name is Brandon Stewart, and this is a podcast that is devoted to anything and everything related to the collecting of unopened packs of sports cards. And so, if there's a cello pack collector out there, rack pack collectors out there, wax box collectors out there, whatever type of unopened you collect, this is the podcast that I think will really focus on some of the things that you love about this hobby that we have, this great, fun hobby that we're very fortunate to be a part of. Today's podcast is going to cover kind of an important question, right, that I think any unopened collector has to deal with. And it's this idea of what packs are okay to open. Right? Which types of products are okay to open? When is it okay to bust open a rack pack, a vintage rack pack? When is it okay to bust open a vintage cello pack, etc.? And this is a really tough question, right? Because all of us that are in this love cards, right? We're in this because we love cards, and it's the love of the cards, the love of the cardboard that is one of the reasons we collect the cards in their natural state, right, prior to being taken out of the packs. And so some of us, because of our love of cards, we open products, right? We open packs of cards, we open sometimes vintage product. But what types of unopened are okay to open, and what types should we really keep our hands off of for the sake of preserving as many of these unopened treasures as possible, right? That's really the question for today's podcast. And I think there's a good starting point would be, it's good to focus on, if you're going to open product, right, it's good to focus on packs that are not too limited in supply, okay? And sometimes it's obvious, right, if a pack is really low in the amount that are out there. If the supply is low, don't touch it, right? So, for example, not to pick on this particular company, but a while back I saw Vintage Breaks. They opened a 1969 Topps rack pack, right? And for those of us in the unopened community, this is just a travesty of sorts. Is it neat to see a 1969 Topps pack opened? Yes, absolutely. It's neat to see cards come out of the pack. Especially a pack that old. It's cool to see. But it's also problematic because this is a pack that there's so few 1969 Topps rack packs that are still out there. And there's a lot of unopened collectors who would absolutely love to get their hands on a pack like that for their collection, right? And what's problematic, what makes it even more problematic, is the fact that just from a simple the simple standpoint of, you're destroying this artifact that is so small in number, and you're getting out of it cards that are not that difficult to already find in PSA 8s, 9s, or 10s. Right? 1969 Topps is a set that there's a lot of high-grade examples out there. Right? There's a lot. And so it's not really, rather than creating a larger supply of graded cards, right, of PSA 8s, PSA 9s, assuming you get cards that high a grade out of the pack, rather than doing that, why don't we preserve packs such as that, right? And I think that many of us in the unopened community would appreciate the preservation of these types of items. And so Vintage Breaks and these types of companies that bust product that is that old, I think that is very problematic. But there's other areas that are gray areas, right? And it's not necessarily related to how vintage a product is, right? There's some unopened product from the 1980s that is very hard to get a hold of, right? 1980 Fleer cello rack packs, for example, are very hard to get a hold of. They're few and far between. 1983 Donruss cello rack packs, right? Again, cello just means where you could see the cards on the front and on the back. It's cello rather than what we would call a wax rack, right, which is a rack pack that has wax packs inside of it. 83 Donruss cello racks are also very hard to find. I think rather than ripping those open, if anyone has them, preserve those, keep them, and if you want to open 1983 Donruss, there's plenty of wax out there. The same with 85 Fleer. Again, I'm talking baseball right now, because that's the main focus of my collection is baseball. 1985 Fleer baseball. You want to open 85 Fleer baseball wax packs? Rip away, my friends. But if you start opening the cello racks, and some of the more rare unopened from that same year, I think it's a problem, right? And I don't have a problem necessarily with people opening even more vintage packs in moderation. So, for example, if someone wants to open a 1975 Topps pack, okay, you want to open a 1975 Topps cello pack or a 1975 Topps rack pack, or not a rack pack, excuse me, a wax pack, go ahead. I have a friend, my friend Phil, he is going to open a 1975 Topps cello pack on his channel. And that's okay with me, as long as it's done in moderation, right? There's still enough 75 Topps wax packs and cello packs out there that we can open some of these and leave enough for everyone else to enjoy, right? So I don't have an issue with that, assuming that someone isn't going to purchase 50 1975 Topps cello packs and rip them all. Right, assuming they don't just go on a frenzy, looking for whatever, looking for a Jim Mint 10 Brett rookie or something like this. I don't have a problem with it, as long as it's in moderation. One or two here or there, I don't see any issue with that necessarily. But again, it's about some years, certain types of products are more available than others, right? So for example, 1977 Topps baseball. For whatever reason, 1977 Topps baseball rack packs are tough to get a hold of. They just seem to be fewer in number than wax packs or cello packs from that same set. If someone were to open a 1977 Topps rack pack, I would be upset by that if I were to watch this happen. Right, and again, there are companies where you can pay to play. You pay to get into a break, and you get a card in the break. And these companies will break product like this. They'll break 1977 Topps rack packs. Those of us in the unopened community would much rather you not do this, because again, you're destroying an artifact. Right, you're destroying an artifact. If you want to rip 1977 Topps, there's still quite a bit of 1977 Topps wax packs out there. Again, I don't think it's a good investment necessarily to rip open this product in the search for 8s, 9s, and 10s, because the cost of entry is so high. A 1977 Topps wax pack, for example, is going to run $150 to $200, give or take, depending on the condition of the pack. That's a big gamble, right? Especially as when you can't assume that the cards are going to be well centered. You can't assume that you're going to get any cards that are Hall of Famers or key rookies or anything like that. You can't make that assumption, and so it's really it's a risky gamble, right? It's a risky gamble, and so what I would say is, for those of you that rip open vintage product, right, in addition to doing it in moderation, right, make sure you do it for the right reasons. Make sure you do it because you love the product and you love cards, and it's driven by the love of cards and not the love of trying to make a profit or anything like that. Because ultimately, I think anyone that's breaking vintage product trying to turn a profit is going to find themselves quickly either running out of money or just losing their butt, so to speak. So it depends on the product. It depends on a lot of different factors. And sometimes even in the same year, there's a lot of product. There's a lot of wax packs of one product, but not a lot of rack packs or cello packs or whatever the case may be. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. One other thing to keep in mind, right, and this is something that it goes without saying if you're a pack collector, but there may be people that are just getting into unopened or have never collected unopened that are listening to this. And to me, it's important to keep in mind the fact that if there's a Hall of Famer showing in 1970s product, for example, if you have a 1978 Topps rack pack, let's say with Nolan Ryan showing on top, right, or you have a 1978 Topps rack with some other Hall of Famer on top, or you're getting back to the stage, to the era where we're starting to run out of the supply, right? If there's a Hall of Famer on top and you have a truly vintage an unopened pack, mid 1970s, mid to late 1970s, and further back than that, keep it sealed. Keep it sealed. Not only because it's worth a lot more sealed, right? Not that value is the end all and be all, but keep it sealed. Preserve it. Because these are the prime types of items for unopened collectors. These are the prime types of items for unopened collectors, and they just look cool. Everyone loves in the unopened community packs with Hall of Famers showing. That's one of the greatest things out there. If you have a rack and it's got a key Hall of Famers rookie showing on top, that's something to treasure. And ripping it open in the hopes of, well, maybe there's more underneath. Maybe there's in this hypothetical 78 Topps rack that has Nolan Ryan on top. Maybe there's an Eddie Murray rookie in here that could get a 10, right? The odds are stacked against you that's going to happen, number one. And number two, you've just destroyed this really cool artifact with a Hall of Famer on top. So these are just some of my thoughts on this. And I would anyone out there who's ripping a lot of product, it's something to think about when you're going through this, because the more that you rip, the less there is for those of us that actually collect these artifacts. And people have the right to rip what they want. I wouldn't say that if it's assuming it's your pack and you want to open it, have a blast. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you get the cards you're looking for. But be cognizant and open in moderation. Don't go on a binge, so to speak, and tear through a lot of vintage product. Even if you have the money to do so, it's not necessarily the responsible thing to do, in my opinion. But that is it for today's podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please let me know what you guys think. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, let me know what you think. I would love to hear your feedback. Talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.